I think we're good to go. Hello, everyone. Welcome. So our next speaker is Dr. Robert Corliss, a well-known figure in the Maple community and a user of Maple from its inception. Dr. Corliss is an emeritus distinguished university professor at Western University, and he's here today to give us some updates on Maple Transaction Journal, of which he's the editor-in-chief. Thank you so much, Rob, and on to you.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Karishma, and thanks to everybody who's putting stuff together behind the scenes for the chance to do this. I'm going to share screen. Share screen. I'm going to talk about Maple transactions in general, but I'm going to do that by example. So. But before I even start doing that, I want to show you the kind of announcement page that I always give in all of my talks. I've given 3 talks here in Madrid. Hello, Canada, and hello, the rest of the world. But I've been given 3 talks while I'm here, and every single one, I always put an announcement up at the beginning about Maple transactions and saying that it's an open access journal with no page charges. It turns out this is called a diamond class journal because many of the open access journals actually charge the authors, and they have to find the money somewhere from their grants or something to make open access. But owing to the sponsorship of Maplesoft and of the University of Western Ontario through Scholarship Western, this is actually a completely open journal. We use the Open Journal System software, which is a creation of the Public Knowledge Project at Simon Fraser University in Canada. If you are an associate editor or a senior editor of the journal, I want you to be giving similar announcements at all of your talks as well. One of the things that we want to do is we want to encourage people to submit to the journal. We have a couple of special sections. One of them is a student section, and we've got some very good student papers, and just processing some right at the moment, which are really exceptional. Okay, that's an announcement about mechanics of the journal. I should say a little bit about why it's necessary. So here's a paper of Teresa Gomez Diaz and Tomas Recio in a French open access journal called F100 that talks about, why open science is really necessary. That's actually kind of a cool paper anyway. That's about general open publishing, but Maple transactions should be for our community, the Maple community. It's sustainable, it's low cost, we don't kill any trees. Well, not many, because we do have some power requirements, but it is a low environmental cost. The publications are archival. The Scholarship Western has guaranteed that all of the papers that are published with Maple transactions will be available basically forever. Now, and it's just part of the bundle of journal things. This is not going to disappear. If I should suddenly have a heart attack and fall over, those papers will continue. I want the papers to be worth reading, or listening to if they're videos, or executing if they're executable papers, or adapting or mixing from or something. I don't want these papers just to be lines on the author's CVs. There's a lot of what I call write-only publications in math nowadays, and it's not what we want. But the main fun thing is that this is really opening a way to learn from each of the many sub-communities within the Maple community. An important announcement: proceedings of the Maple Conference 2024 will be in this journal. I would like a submission by the end of November, please. We will notify acceptance by the end of February and publication in April. Please use the appropriate template for the journal. If you use LaTeX, on Overleaf, there's an Overleaf template for Maple transactions. If you use Microsoft Word, go to the journal website and there's a Microsoft Word template. We haven't put the Jupyter Notebook template up yet on the journal, but we will do that. But in the meantime, there's some examples of Jupyter Notebook publication. I missed Stephen's talk yesterday about Jupyter Notebook and Maple, but I'm looking forward to the recording of it. I've used the Jupyter Notebook stuff, and it's really fun. Here's some example papers from the journal. One is a really lovely paper by Richard Brent called Some Instructive Mathematical Errors. That appeared in the first issue. I highly recommend that people go and have a look at that as an example of a really high-level review of interesting mathematics done in there. And I'm very proud that that paper was published in Maple Transactions. Veso gave a wonderful talk on two-eyed seeing 2 Maple conferences ago, and that became a paper published in the proceedings of that issue. And that's a Microsoft Word example, but it's also an extremely popular paper, one of the most highly downloaded papers on the site, over 2,000 downloads now, I think, and a very interesting paper on indigenizing mathematics. So there's an example of Microsoft Word paper. Then there's a Jupyter Notebook example here, the 2 cycles in the infinite exponential tower. That's a paper that Johan Joby and David Jeffrey and I wrote. So have some fun about that. Okay, I want to use the rest of my time to actually talk about some technical things that I'm publishing in a paper in Transactions. I try to publish something in every journal, and because I'm editor-in-chief, these papers do not count as refereed. We could have put some mechanism in there, but I'm retired, so it doesn't actually matter if my papers are refereed or not. Anyway, so I can just concentrate on the fun things. So this paper, the extended Watson-Wyman lemma in Maple, now you're looking at Maple Transactions, but this has not been published yet. This will be published by either this weekend or Monday. I hope that this issue will be published. So you were looking behind the scenes a little bit, but you see what the paper looks like. So it's myself and my student Michelle Hatzel and Eric Postma, who have done some work on this thing called the extended Watson-Wyman lemma in Maple. And you see that we have a little blue thing for PDF. The PDF of the paper is there. We also have a link to a Maple worksheet. That goes to the cloud. That goes to Maple Cloud. All the Maple worksheets are published via the Maple Cloud. And you can go and download the support worksheet for this publication there. And that's actually not a bad idea. You get to see some of the things that we've been playing with. Every paper should have some kind of landing image. So just to catch the eye a little bit, this is a paper about perturbation. And so I like this image with lots of ripples on the water. I took that photo in White Rock, British Columbia. So you can have any photos you like or any images you like can be part of that. Then we have every author should have a nice bio on there. Mine's just a little short at the moment, but that's fine. If we click on the PDF, you'll get a PDF viewer. And if you don't like that PDF viewer, you can download the PDF and view it on your own machine. I like this paper, and I'm very glad to publish this paper in Maple Transactions because I think it will be interesting to the Maple community. What I find neat about it is that Maple's internal commands int and series are so strong that something called the Watson lemma, when I implemented it in Maple, it actually required us to go back and prove something more about the original Watson lemma. So we actually just strengthened the mathematics to match what Maple was doing. So that was kind of fun. And then we turned things into a race. We decided to use Watson's lemma to improve the computation or speed up the computation of an integral. So let's just skip straight to that. Before I do that, no, let's skip straight to the code. I do want to show you that even if you're publishing a paper, if you have Maple code that you want to publish, there's a special listings environment that Eric Postma actually made so that you include things in the LST listing environment, and it highlights Maple commands. So it looks nice within within the paper. So there's that part that I want to mention as well. Let's skip over the lemma. If you've never heard of Watson's lemma, don't worry about it too much. It's a way of approximating integrals with parameters. And here's the example that we sped up. So if you do this integral in Maple, integral from 0 to infinity of e to the minus xt over the square root of log 1 plus t, that's a Laplace transform. People normally use x or use s for the Laplace, but it happened to use x in this thing. This integral cannot be expressed as a special function. And so if you want to evaluate it, given the numerical value of x, you use Maple's floating point evaluation. And that's fast and reliable, but it's still a lot of work if you want to do it for a lot of points. So if you want to evaluate more quickly, you might want to find a formula to approximate this integral. And that's what Watson's lemma is for. So Watson's lemma, we just apply that code that I wrote for Watson's lemma there, and you say, oh, it produces this A9 of x in equation 32 that you see at the bottom of the screen there. That formula is much faster to evaluate. In fact, it's between 5 and 25,000 times faster than the numerical evaluation of the integral. So you make the evaluation thousands of times faster by approximating the function. Well, that's great. So then we decided to see how much faster we could make it go. So we put it in eval HF, and it went 10 times faster than that. And then we compiled it. We used the Maple compiler to compile it. It went 30 times faster than that. And then we used the threads package to run it in parallel on this little machine, which has got eight cores. And so made it go 5 times faster than that. So overall, the speed up was more than 40 million times. So we're kind of like a 40 million times speed up on there. But the important thing for mathematics is not the race. The important thing is we actually had to go and improve the lemma. We actually have a better lemma than used to be, because it says we could do some things a little bit better, and series is using generalized series. So that was kind of fun. But I think people will be interested in the bits of coding that can make this stuff go faster. So that was the example that I just did in there. I just said over 40 million times faster overall. And in fact, the symbolic computation part sped it up faster. That had the greatest factor in doing that. So I think that was kind of interesting and kind of fun. But this is a paper that's coming from my point of view and my interests. Well, okay, I'm glad for that. I'm glad for the opportunity to talk to people about some of the things that I'm interested in. And I think that many people like races, and so that people might like to be interested in that. And it's techniques paper, so showing how to use eval HF, showing how to use the compiler, showing how to use threads. So I think people will want to read it. But the Maple community is really large. There's lots and lots of things that people are interested in. New ways to teach, applications to interesting things, applications to important things, student activity, people's stories. Pet peeves. Maybe somebody wants to write more things about how not to do things, how not to update lists, for example. So I want to encourage people not just to go and look for papers that other people would want to publish. I also want you to think about what you want to get across to the community and to try and share with this very large community. So please send in your papers. Quick announcement, that paper on the extended Watson lemma, that's actually coming from an upcoming book. Nick Fillion and I have signed a contract with SIAM, and the book is called Perturbation Methods Using Backward Error. It could be called Perturbation Methods Using Backward Error and Maple. The whole book is done in Maple. We occasionally dip in and compare it with other things. But this particular 3D image is a parametric 3D plot in Maple, and I'm really happy with how it looks. And I'm especially happy with how it looks because 5 years ago, you couldn't do parametric 3D plots. It was only Cartesian plots that you could do. So part of the continual improvement of Maple really helps with these kinds of things. So that's the upcoming book. Of course, I just had a recent book last year, Computational Discovery on Jupyter, and I have promised a version of this book using Jupyter with Maple. That one is Jupyter with Python with only occasional bits of Maple in it, but the Jupyter with Maple version is coming. And thank you for listening. Maybe this is an appropriate point to stop for discussion. I'll stop the share, but I can start at any time again if people want to see it. So thank you for listening. See, now I can check out the chat.
Yeah, Paulina was monitoring the chat, and so she responded to a lot of the questions. Thank you, Paulina.
Hey, no problem. Yeah, I encourage people to just go on the transactions website and browse through the archives. Lots of interesting stuff there.
And Rob, I'm hoping after this talk, people will be inspired and motivated to submit to the Maple Transactions Journal. I know there's always a lot of interesting content on that site.
Yep, I think so.
Yeah, I don't always understand everything, but I always find it very, very interesting.
To be honest, Karishma, neither do I.
Okay.
We have to rely on external referees for specialized kinds of things.
Yeah.
With an opportunity to learn. And so far, I haven't published anything that I've seriously disagreed with, but I will. If somebody makes a concrete case for something that is supported by referees or is supported by evidence, even if I disagree with it, I'll publish. But I hope that people will publish more things that argue, oh, here's a, where did we find the site? I should put that actually in the chat. But mapletransactions.org will do it.
Are you typing that in, Rob, or do you want me to do that?
I am. I got
you
it.
are, okay.
There we go. There we go. Aha! Well, good. So the talk has succeeded in telling at least one person about the existence of the journal. So I count that as a success.
Yeah.
So I see lots of people in the audience who have not yet submitted papers. I want to encourage them to submit papers. Hello, Mario. George, lots of other people. So please do.
Rob, can I make a small plug?
Please.
Love to see more education-based papers too. So as Rob had mentioned, we have peer-reviewed papers which go through a very strict reviewing process, and we use that for the Maple proceedings, and we take research papers of that type at all times. But we also have contributions from students, from instructors who might just want to relay an interesting story about their classroom experiences with Maple. All of these are good things. Or if you have a creative way of teaching a math topic with Maple, please, interesting puzzle or a game that people would like. So it's really quite accessible to all. And like Karishma, I don't understand everything that's published, but there are also lots of very accessible papers. Several ones about Maple history too, for any of you who might be interested in that topic.
I just wanted to say that I try to keep my Maple work within Maple. I would be happy to publish in a Maple worksheet. I created my own template in Maple, how to use Maple and to format it. But it would have been much better if Maple contained templates like Word does, and to make it a lot easier. Also, a few things about the typographics, like Maple has objects like matrices and vectors, why isn't it automatically bold within the text?
So we actually have a template for Maple worksheets, but a very light template. We only insist on the logo up in one corner and some details about citation. We leave the author a lot of freedom about how to make their worksheet look as pretty as possible. So all of the work that you put in, Omer, to do this would be very welcome, maybe as a model for other people.
Rob, there is a question from Robert Lopez, and it says, to what extent are articles refereed?
So we have different sections. So the editor's corner, as I said, which contains me, is not refereed at all. I put stuff around to other editors and I ask for comments, and they say, well, okay, are you sure about that? So that's not really refereeing. We have sections where there really are referees. We have a double blind system that the papers submitted for refereeing have the authors' names redacted, and they go out to referees who don't even know who the authors are. They're asked not to try and guess. They're asked not to go and look on the archive and see if things are. And most people are pretty good about that. And so you get an honest and genuine referee report on the refereed articles. And some of our referees are very critical. Others are more interested in helping the authors overcome any difficulties. And that, frankly, the ones with constructive criticism are the best ones. So in fact, I don't think we've ever sent anything to you, Robert, for refereeing. So I think now that your name has come up, and then Student Corner will get a lighter refereeing. People will look at it and say, yes, we're going to accept that, but we're going to help the student write the paper more than anything else.
Now, did you see the question from Melvin, Rob?
I take pictures of worksheets to make a paper. And the answer is, I don't like that. I don't want to have, I would like to have something that really allows live interaction. So I want to publish the actual worksheet itself. We've got the Maple Cloud to do that. So if you publish the Maple worksheet as on Maple transactions in our section on the cloud, then people can actually interact with the code that you've done. Whereas a picture, well, there's not really much you can do with that. You can look at a picture, but you can't actually mix with it. You can't do any things with it. So I don't want to encourage pictures, but you know, sometimes a picture is the right rate. If you have snapshot here, this is what happened when I did this, and then you move on from there. So it's possible that some other things are in there.
So it might be worth repeating. Or a question for you, Robert. I think maybe there's some confusion because there's a template for Word and a template for LaTeX and for Jupyter, but there's no template for Maple. That doesn't mean that you can't submit a Maple worksheet. It's just you have more freedom. Is that correct? Yeah,
that's right. And we will put the Maple transactions template onto the worksheet. It's just put in the logo up in the top corner and the how to cite the paper on there. So it's pretty straightforward. Jürgen's paper, Fibonacci computation is a model for that. So go look at his paper and you see how that's done. I see a question from Umar Bashir. The Maple Transactions Journal encourages papers that are of interest to the Maple community. You do not have to use Maple to publish in it. We have papers which are published using MATLAB, for example. That was in the first issue. There's one. I don't like to draw too much attention to it, but there's a paper that uses Mathematica that was published in Maple Transactions. You do not have to. It just should be of interest to the Maple community.
This is Doug Mead. I don't see a way to raise my hand or anything, so I'll just jump in. But I think, I mean, you've emphasized this yourself, but I think it's still worth repeating that these papers in this journal are not physical papers. They're electronic. And because they're electronic, they're not bound by traditional print requirements. And so they should have interactive elements in them, so that the reader can experience and play with what is being discussed and expand and collapse things as their different needs and interests lead them. So the idea of, yeah, so I mean, I think it would be nice if there were more tools to make worksheets look better, and to stylize them so that you could just change a template and have it converted into something that looks, you know, standard for the transactions. But but yeah, that's these are new wave papers. So
I like that, Doug. Thank you very much for putting that. I agree with you completely. And we're getting the nod to move on here, so I'll say thank you very much again.
Yeah, Rob, thank you so much for this talk. I think we all learned something. I'm hopeful to see a lot more publications from everybody who was at this session. I saw somebody already say that they would do something, so I'm looking forward to that. And just a quick note to everybody on this call, the next session is in a separate Zoom room. So you're gonna have to leave this and go to another Zoom room if you want to attend that talk. Thank you once again, Rob, really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Bye, everyone.